Welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself
Thank
shortly
you.
and where you come from?
My name is Joshua Mfonsem. I'm from Ghana.
My name is Ernesto Fori.
My name is Professor Nanama Browne, Klutse.
My name is Nick Breeze.
My name is Rituraj Pukan and I live in Assam.
You've been participating in discussions around climate intervention and especially SRM, Solar Radiation Modification. Do you think those are discussions that we should also be having more? And who are the people that you would like to see also engaging more with these discussions?
We as young people demand to understand what these things are so that we'll be able to put the policymakers to make good decisions. So dialogue about this.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks. Let's hop in the bus.
Minority groups are always the one who are willing to engage someone else who is not in their group. And the privilege in society always thinks someone doesn't deserve a seat. I think this has happened in history over and over again.
Also
and this
with
is
SRM?
and this is the same with SRM. Those who think that they've studied the science, they've read enough about it, so they know, think that we can already conclude on what we need to do.
The reason why indigenous people and civil society as a whole are not being part of the mainstream conversation that need to be about climate intervention is because I guess there is a lack of understanding and there is a fear that perhaps we will continue to pollute the planet, pollute our soils, our air, our waters, like we are doing today if we turn to climate intervention. But that should not be the understanding. What if we are not able to adhere to the commitments that countries are making? What if we are not able to reach net zero? And then in 30 years, 40 years, we will have no choice, right? So we need to put more and more research into the use of technology.
One thing that I would maybe suggest when these researches would be done is that the indigenous peoples could be, for example, involved like that they evaluate the research. We have a lot of indigenous researchers who not only have the Western scientific research background and knowledge, but they also have the traditional knowledge with them.
I think that one thing we have to get right is the inclusion of indigenous communities in climate governance. In as much as we would engage, I think after engaging, there should be a next step. That is what we often miss. There should be actionable steps that we can trace back to certain meetings, certain interactions, and that will make the research have that capacity or that impact that we want.
We know that, I mean, it may be a common theme as we're discussing on the perceptions, the ethical implications, and so we want to engage society in that because we think that we have to start at some point.
Yeah.
And
Better now.
better now than later, exactly. So I think that it's one of the things that we have to still study to find the impact. Because if we ever want to make a decision to use SRM, we have to have a very good holistic approach and holistic knowledge on the impacts.
Right.
Because I think that is where everybody is concerned, not about the methodology, but the impact.
About the uncertainty
Exactly.
of the impacts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what I realized was that it's not a crisis with one solution.
The SRM conversation is new in the Global South, and governments do not have the clear understanding of what it is and the impact it will have on us. So we encourage research into that.
I look at it from a perspective of, are we going to say that because it's an unpopular topic, we are just going to keep quiet and allow others to decide for us? Or we are going to take an active effort and say, we want to learn about it, we want to know what it is, and we want to talk about it so that we are part of the decision making of how this translates into our lives.
The most challenging part is that I think a lot of people who
are against it will say, well, why are you even covering it? It's almost like you can't give it oxygen. And if you give it oxygen, it can breathe. And if it breathes, then it might catch on. And I would push back on that just by saying, this conversation is already seeding itself. And if you're telling people not to talk about it or not to research it, you're already losing because it's happening.
So the conversation will happen anyway. There's a growing interest. The earlier we do it, the better for all of us.